So today we are going to talk about another couplet from Swarved, and this couplet is about mind and where does this mind stay in this body. This is halfway. There is another couplet which we'll discuss next week on Monday as a continuation of this particular slide. So this is about mind, and this particular couplet actually comes from 2nd canto, 7th chapter and 36th couplet. We have been hearing all the times about mind, 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 mind. But what exactly it is and where does it reside? This couplet is about that. Mind has its own mechanism. It has its own process to work with. But do we know how does it work? What is its functionality through which time to time, whichever way the mind works, sometimes it behaves differently, sometimes it acts differently. What is the reason? What happens when we are in our awake state and what happens when we are in a dreaming state? What happens when we are going into deep down into the sleep? What happens to this mind? This particular couplet actually explains about those states of the mind. Let me read this particular couplet and then I will explain the meaning of it. So 2nd canto, 7th chapter, 36th couplet, what it says: नेत्रयाग्र मनवास है, जागृत में जग ज्ञान, मन मध्यम परमाण है में, स्वप्न कंठ स्थान. So what it says, when we are in awake state, means we are not sleeping, we are in awake state. At that time point, the mind resides in front of our eyes. In fact, scientifically also it has been proven that this mind is connected with all of our sense organs, and any deviation or any movement in the mind is only because of the connection with these sense organs. And out of these 5 sense organs, eyes are the most prominent one. Around 85% of the deviation or activity of the mind is because of our eyes. And that's why here it says that the mind resides in front of our eyes during our awake state. What happens when we are in a dreaming state? We are sleeping and we are dreaming. So there are 2 states when we are sleeping. One is the dreaming state and one is the deep sleep state. Today's, with the help of our smart watches and other devices, we can find out how many hours, how many minutes we have been in deep sleep state. You can check it out from those modern watches. We are not always in the deep sleep mode. Sometimes we are dreaming, sometimes we are in deep sleep mode, sometimes we are awake, but still we believe that we are sleeping, but actually we are not. Our sleep is disturbed at that time point. So here what this couplet says, that when we are dreaming state, when we are in dreaming state, the mind goes to a specific vein. That vein is in the throat. And Swamiji, Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj gave name of that is as Hita. So the mind goes to a vein in the throat called Hita. The dreaming state is not a false state. Some people believe that when you are dreaming, that means it is an imaginary state. You are doing something else as an imagination. It's a false state. No, it is not. It's a real state. Why it is real? Because whatever we are dreaming, it is always connected with our chitta. Chitta means the memory chip, what we have, one of the divine organ. Chitta, the mind gets connected to that chitta and it works on that basis. And that's how we are dreaming because of that. But since that chitta, whatever items it has, it's not just from one life. Whatever memory and whatever things have been stored in that is coming from infinite lives we have in past. So which item you are dreaming about, sometimes we understand what we are dreaming, sometimes we know people, sometimes we know the activities, but many times we don't. That what is happening? What is that? Because it's all mixed with each other. So ultimately, whatever we are dreaming, it's not a false state. It's the soul, it's the mind, it's you who is experiencing it. It's just that all the other sense organs are not functioning. It's just the mind and the soul and our prana shakti, the vital air forces, are awake at that time point. The mind is neither considered as fully inert and nor it is considered fully conscious. Sometimes it is connected with the soul, then we say it is in a conscious state, and other times we say it is an inert state. So it is considered as in between. Sometimes it is inert, sometimes it is conscious. So we say this as it is in a state of medium magnitude. It's not fully conscious, it is not fully inert, and it is always working in conjunction with our 5 sense organs, our other inner organs like intellect, the chitta, and the ego also. Without these connections, mind cannot work. But the source of energy which mind has is ultimately, directly or indirectly, comes from the soul itself. So please remember, there is a huge difference between mind and soul. These two are not the same thing. Please don't get confused. Mind is a separate entity, soul is a separate entity, and both have different functionality. But ultimately, the experience, the outcome of any activity which is being experienced, it's by the soul itself, whether it is a good or bad thing. Whatever mind does, whatever activities are happening, all the results, all the feeling are actually being experienced by the soul itself. And that's why if we want to make our soul more powerful, if you want to make experience, if you want to experience more and more good things, the blissful things, we need to rectify. We need to rectify the activities by doing on the basis of mind itself. And that's why this meditation has to be practiced so that we can control the mind from outside, from inside, then purify it, and then our soul becomes more and more powerful. So this is about the couplet from Swarved, which mentions about what is the state or where this mind resides when we are in awake state and when we are in a dreaming state. Next couplet, we will be discussing about what happens when we are in a deep sleep mode. Thank you very much for listening.